Be a sanctuary. These three words my good friend and colleague, Reverend Nancy McDonald Ladd, wrote on her social media page on Wednesday morning, November 6th, when we realized how the election had gone. And I can't stop thinking about what that could mean for me, for you, for all of us. On that day, I could think of nothing more empowering to say, nor more true. Yes, that is what we must do now. Be a sanctuary. The good news is that we already know how to do it. This is our chance to be the love warriors we have been training for. This is our chance to be more loving, in fact, than we ever thought was possible for us. This is our chance also to resist other desires such as pettiness or rejection of people who might not be there. Now, of course, keep yourself safe, especially if you are transgender, if you are BIPOC, if you are an immigrant. Nothing is more important than your safety and your health. So that's my caveat. First, be safe. Remember what I said last Sunday, happy resisting, don't die. But if you are safe, then you do need to find a way to be a sanctuary for someone else. And what is sanctuary? It is a consecrated place, such as the ancient Hebrew temple at Jerusalem or its Holy of Holies. It is the most sacred part of a religious building, a place of refuge and protection. Sanctuary is also a term for wildlife, where predators are controlled and hunting is illegal. It is also the word for immunity from law. Immunity from law can be attached to the term sanctuary. Can you be someone else's sanctuary? Can you be their safe person? How can you embody and become someone who offers immunity from law that would try to erase someone's trans identity or would try to call a person illegal? Through words, but also through actions. In religious community, I operate under two central mission statements. One, I'm not going to talk about except just to mention it. We are always creating the future. We are always creating the future. The second principle is that we delight in one another's presence. I hope you feel that from me, that I delight in your presence. In order to delight in one another's presence, we must do three things. The first is that we must behold one another. We must truly notice each other. We must look into each other's eyes. We must listen deeply to each other's stories. Now that I have a dog, I think I understand why people feel such intimacy with dogs. It's because dogs are not afraid of prolonged eye contact. Can get a little intense. People, that's another matter, okay? But we must behold each other the way we would behold a stunning sunset at the end of the day. We must listen to each other the way we would listen to our favorite piece of music. But we must behold one another the way you would behold an epic waterfall along a hike. Now, if you were on a hike and you had missed that waterfall, wouldn't you feel such deep loss? I missed it. What wonders you hold, and what a loss for me to miss it. Why could I miss the blessing of noticing and beholding and delighting in you? Why could I miss that blessing? Maybe it's because I'm on my phone. I'm scrolling on my phone. That's one reason. Maybe it's because I'm really preoccupied with myself. And I'm thinking just about what I'm going to say next. And I'm really just preoccupied with me. Maybe it's because the president has purchased the real estate of my attention and my brain power for a low, low price. In fact, it is his most successful acquisition. Maybe it's because I can't notice you, because I am struggling under too many repressive and oppressive situations and laws to be able to behold you if I am just fighting to exist and be safe. And there are so many reasons. I mean, we do have excellent reasons for missing the greatest blessing of them all, each other. Once you begin to practice beholding everyone you encounter, your empathy expands. You become a more active listener. And folks are going through a lot right now. They are seeking, most of all, safety. Can you be someone's safe place? Rather than making the second thing we need to delight in one another's presence is a spiritual discipline of curiosity. Rather than making assumptions about each other, we must be that each other's gender or background, we must maintain curiosity and wonder about all we don't know about each other. If you have seen the Ted Lasso episode, Be Curious, Not Judgmental, I was going to reference that, but just go watch it. Curiosity is often like an endangered species of equality. My husband and I often talk about how difficult it is to find a genuinely curious person, someone who has an open-hearted wonder about others and just wants to hear more. Like, tell me more about you. I don't know. What a wonder. Being curious as a virtue means you don't assume someone else's pronouns. It means you don't assume you share their references. It means you don't assume they know someone else just because they are both of the same racial or other background. Instead, you just wonder about them and ask open-ended questions that offer them the freedom of their full story, to be fully themselves. It's the freedom we can give each other interpersonally. And finally, to delight in one another's presence, we must flex that muscle of empathy. Practice empathy in small and large gestures. Fill someone else's glass first. Offer an expression of joining presence. I can imagine how hard that must be for you. Or you can return to wondering, I wonder how difficult that is for you. And then we can become a place for grace. And we will need to embody grace in these times. If someone expresses regret or remorse at their vote for totalitarianism, we will not gloat. We will not gloat, not on the internet, not in real life. We will not say, I told you so. We will welcome them with open arms into the sanctuary of love and belonging. Amen? And we will work for a kinder and more just nation together. When grace is offered, grace is returned. I also believe this is sound political strategy, but I will leave that to the political strategists, some of whom may be here right now or may be watching. But we will look for cracks, not in the arguments, but in the individualism, in the confusion that supports death-dealing notions that might makes right, or that some deserve so much when others do not. And as the nation and the world becomes more challenging and targets more of us for our beliefs, for our identities, or for our debt that we might owe, we will need to be a sanctuary to those as they suffer great loss to their rights, their homes, their freedoms, their livelihood. But the good news is that we can grow our hearts, we can grow our souls into people who are reflexively predisposed to offer sanctuary. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh believed the next Buddha would not take the form of a single person, but rather a community. Horrible betting odds that the US of A ever achieves Buddha status, but a good reminder that compassionate community can change the world and that maybe we could be the next Buddha. Now, my colleague Jennifer Nordstrom last week preached about this 1989 documentary, Weapons of the Spirit by Pierre Sauvage. It tells the story of a small town in France that resisted the Nazis and their French government collaborators. The town is called Les Chambon and provided sanctuary to Jewish people and to others fleeing Nazis. They did so as a community working together. This town of 5,000 people understood sanctuary as their collective ethical obligation, and they sheltered those who asked for help. Le Chambon is the only town in France that did this as a community. Of course, we've heard stories of individuals throughout France who made a personal moral decision to shelter people, but Le Chambon was the only town that provided sanctuary together. The filmmaker was born in Le Chambon, and his parents were among the 5,000 Jewish people being sheltered from the Nazis there. And when the filmmaker returned as an adult to ask the villagers why they made this radical choice of shared risk and protection, so different from every other town in France, the people he interviewed were befuddled by the question. One person even shrugged when he replied, "It's just what you do. It's not courageous. I mean, we never considered doing anything different. How could we possibly not give protection to our fellow humans?" Savage dug deeper into the history of this community, and he found a longer story of shelter and resistance. See, most people in this town are descendants of the Huguenots, a Protestant group that went through centuries of persecution by the French government and the Catholic majority. And over the decades, the community developed shared ethics that made their allegiance to humanity stronger than their fear of government threats. They developed shared ethics that made their allegiance to humanity stronger than their fear of government threats. They developed the muscle of resisting authoritarianism. By the time the Nazis came knocking, harboring their fellow humans was not a superhuman courage, it was normal, just what you do as a human being for your fellow human beings. Jennifer Nordstrom finds that there are dozens of examples like this. Religious communities, she would say, courageously resisted tyranny, from Catholic nuns resisting authoritarianism in Latin America, to Quakers and the Underground Railroad, to Black churches leading the Civil Rights Movement. In religious communities, human beings practice living together with a set of shared values at the center and build deep bonds of trust throughout the community, which gives them the strength and clarity to challenge tyranny. Communities of trust and sanctuary are created when we share in each other's lives, celebrating each other's rites of passage, welcoming new babies as we did last Sunday, and burying our dead together, breaking bread with one another and sharing resources. When we show up for each other in loss and grief, and to shake a pom-pom at each other's celebrations, we learn we can trust one another, because we show up at each other's bedsides, or when the baby is sick, or when the diagnosis comes in, or when the massive, soul-shocking changes roll through. We draw from this tradition, this Unitarian Universalist tradition that offers sanctuary. It is in the lifeblood of our faith. It is in the symbol of the flaming chalice, symbol of our faith tradition, which began as a logo designed by Austrian refugee Hans Deutsch for the Unitarian Service Committee, became an underground symbol in occupied Europe during World War II for assisting Unitarians, Jews, and others to escape Nazi persecution. It was a seal on the paper. If you saw this flaming chalice, you knew this person was safe. This concept of being sanctuary is in our religious tradition, it's in our history, and we can be more loving and more full of grace than we have ever imagined. May your resolve to be a sanctuary be larger than your fear. May your commitment to curiosity be greater than your loneliness. May your vision of grace be higher than your hurt and pain. And may we follow the poet's lead. Secret diplomats are what we must be. As a girl in Qatar once assured me, each day slipping its blank visa into our hands. So go and be a sanctuary. Be someone's refuge against this storm. Let us be refuge to each other. Amen.